Hey everyone, we're taking a deep dive today into gold IRAs.
Oh, yeah, those are...
Yeah, they're a hot topic lately, and you've been sending in some great resources like that Best Gold IRA Allocation Techniques
Yeah.
article.
All right.
And it seems like you're thinking about maybe adding this to your retirement plans. We're going to break it all down,
Yeah,
benefits, risks, all that.
definitely.
So
Important stuff.
before we get too far, can we just start with the basics?
Yeah.
What is a gold IRA? I know it has something to do with gold, but
Okay, yeah, so with a traditional IRA, you're typically investing in things like stocks and bonds.
right.
A gold IRA is a self-directed IRA,
Okay.
and you hold physical precious metals like gold, but also silver and palladium.
Okay, so it's like
It's meant to act like a hedge against economic instability.
so diversifying beyond stocks and bonds, getting some protection from the economy goes crazy.
Exactly. And the article even mentioned that gold IRAs can be pretty cost effective.
Oh yeah, I was curious about that.
And one of the reasons is because you're often dealing with lower management fees than with an actively managed fund.
Okay, so holding on to more of your savings
Yeah.
makes sense. The article also talks about gold IRAs as a hedge against inflation,
Right.
economic downturns, which,
Yeah.
I mean, those terms always kind of feel a little abstract to me. Like, how does that actually play out?
Well, think about it this way. Inflation is like a thief. It just kind of slowly chips away at the value of your money.
Oh, so my money's losing value over time.
Yeah. So let's say you have $100 today and inflation is at 5%.
Okay.
Next year, that $100 might only buy you $95 worth of goods.
Ouch.
Exactly. And historically, gold has tended to hold its value
Okay.
or even increase in value during those times.
Makes sense.
It's like an anchor when everything else is going a little crazy.
Okay. Now that makes more sense.
I do.
The article also mentions different types of gold IRAs.
Mm-hmm.
So we have physical gold IRAs, gold ETF IRAs, and gold mining stock IRAs.
Yeah, different tools in a toolbox.
Can you just walk us through those?
Okay, so with a physical gold IRA, you are literally holding gold bars or coins.
Wow.
It's a tangible asset.
That's so cool.
It's the most direct way to own gold,
Okay.
but you have to think about storage and custodial fees, so it's like owning a really valuable piece of art.
Yeah, you're going to need a safe place to keep it.
Exactly. And then there are gold ETF IRAs, which are a little bit easier to manage.
Okay.
You're investing in gold through an exchange-traded fund, which is traded on the stock market. So it's like buying shares of a company
Okay.
that tracks the price of gold.
Gotcha.
And it's easier to buy and sell, so it's more liquid.
Okay.
And then there are gold mining stock IRAs. And this is where you're investing in the companies that actually mine gold.
Oh, so you're betting on how well those companies do.
Exactly. And if gold prices go up, those companies tend to do well.
Okay.
It can offer higher growth potential, but it's also tied to the risks of the stock market.
Yeah, so each one has its own kind of personality and risk profile, which leads us to the article's emphasis on gold IRA allocation strategies.
Okay.
What does that even mean?
So think of your gold IRA as a recipe.
Oh, okay. I like that.
And allocation is choosing the right ingredients and proportions.
So figuring out how much to put in physical gold, how much in gold, ETFs, and mining stocks.
Exactly. And it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Right.
The ideal recipe can change
Depending on.
your taste,
Yeah.
your risk tolerance,
Okay.
the market conditions.
This is where it gets interesting. How do you figure out your ideal gold IRA allocation? Is it like timing the market?
Well, timing the market is super difficult,
Yeah.
even for the most seasoned investors.
Right.
The article emphasizes that it's really important to understand the current market conditions.
Yeah.
Things like interest rates, inflation,
Yeah.
geopolitical stability, all that.
It's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
It sounds like it would be really helpful to have someone to kind of guide you through it.
You're absolutely right. And actually, the article mentions Kelly Click at Strata Trust Company.
Oh, right. The gold IRA expert.
Exactly.
What is it about her that makes her stand out?
It seems like she specializes in guiding people through the process of investing in precious metals with their self-directed IRAs.
Oh.
And she helps people navigate all those IRS regulations and build wealth accumulation strategies.
That sounds really reassuring.
Right.
To have someone who really knows what they're doing and can tell you exactly what's best for you.
Absolutely. Now, while gold IRAs do offer those potential benefits,
Right.
it's really important to be aware of the risks.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the risks.
So the article highlights a few key ones.
Okay.
price volatility, the potential for fraud, storage fees, and limited liquidity.
Ooh, hold on. That's a lot.
Yeah, so let's break those down one by one.
Yeah.
So price volatility just means that the price of gold can go up and down.
Oh, so like the value of my gold IRA could fluctuate?
Exactly like any investment, there's no guaranteed return. And then there's the potential for fraud.
How would that happen?
If you choose an unreliable dealer
Okay.
or custodian, you could end up losing your investment.
Yikes. That's scary.
It is, and that's why it's so important to choose a reputable custodian that follows all those IRS regulations.
Yeah, to do your research.
For sure. And then there are storage fees.
Okay.
If you have a physical gold IRA, you'll have to pay to store that gold securely, which can take a chunk out of your returns.
Okay.
And then lastly, there's limited liquidity, which means that it's not as easy to convert your gold back into cash quickly compared to, say, selling stock.
So I can't just turn my gold into cash whenever I want.
Well, you can, but it takes time.
It's a process.
Yes.
Okay. I'm starting to see how important it is to weigh those benefits against the risks.
Yeah.
It's not a decision to take lightly.
Absolutely not.
But knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely.
The more we understand those risks,
Yeah.
the better choices we can make.
Exactly. And speaking of making informed choices, the article goes into a lot of detail about choosing a gold IRA custodian.
Oh, right.
So this is really where it gets interesting,
Okay.
especially if you want to avoid those pitfalls we were just talking about.
Right. Choosing the right custodian seems really important
Yeah.
to protect my investment.
Yeah.
What are the big factors to consider here?
Well, reputation and experience are really important.
Okay.
You want a custodian that's got a really good track record and positive reviews from other clients.
Yeah.
The article suggests looking to see if they're associated with organizations like the Industry Council for Tangible Assets or the Professional Numismatists Guild.
Oh, okay. Those sound pretty legit.
Yeah, and then, of course, fees and expenses.
Right. You got to know what you're paying.
Yeah, you want transparency, a clear breakdown of all the costs involved.
Okay.
The article recommends getting a detailed fee schedule from each custodian and then comparing them.
Right. Making sure there aren't any like hidden fees or anything.
Exactly. And then let's talk about storage options.
Yeah.
This is really important if you're holding physical gold.
Right.
The article mentions two main types:
Okay.
segregated storage
Okay.
and commingled storage.
All right. So segregated storage is where your assets are kept separate.
Yes, like your own little vault.
Okay, thanks.
And then commingled storage is where your assets are combined with those of other investors.
So kind of like a shared safety deposit box.
Right. They each have different implications for things like insurance and cost, so it's a trade-off.
Okay, so what would be like your top priorities when evaluating a custodian? What would make you feel comfortable?
Honestly, I would say for me, the biggest thing is knowing that they have a solid track record and a really good reputation for protecting their clients' assets.
Yeah.
And transparency is really important to me, too.
Right. You want to know what you're getting into?
I don't want any surprises.
No surprises.
What about you? What are your top priorities?
Yeah, I think for me, I would also say reputation and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd also be really interested in a custodian who really knows all the IRS rules.
Yeah.
Like they're an expert in that because gold IRAs have all those specific rules.
Right.
And I would want to feel really confident that they're not going to mess anything up,
Exactly.
that my investment's going to stay compliant.
Yeah, you don't want any penalties.
No penalties. I think that's a good place to stop. For now, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
From like the basics of what a gold IRA is to choosing a good custodian.
Yeah. And we'll be back in part 2 to delve even deeper.
So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our deep dive, ready to keep exploring.
Absolutely.
Before we move on, I've been thinking about something we talked about before, like having an expert like Kelly Click
Oh, right. Yeah.
to guide you through the whole gold IRA process,
Mhm,
especially
mhm.
with all the regulations and stuff. Having that kind of personalized help just seems like it would be priceless.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like having a Sherpa guide you up a mountain, you know?
Right.
They know all the best paths and the dangerous spots.
Exactly. They've been there before.
Yeah,
So you can really trust their advice.
absolutely.
Okay, well, speaking of advice,
Yeah.
I remember that point in the article about when the best time to invest in gold for an IRA is.
Oh, yeah.
And it mentioned something about stock market volatility, and I was really intrigued by that.
Yeah, so there's often an inverse relationship between gold and the stock market.
Oh, okay. So when one goes down, the other goes up.
Exactly. So when the stock market gets shaky, investors tend to see gold as a safe haven.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
So like during times of uncertainty, gold kind of holds steady.
Exactly. And of course, it's not a perfect formula.
Yeah.
The markets are complicated.
Yeah.
But historically, this has kind of been the pattern.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how gold IRAs could fit into a bigger retirement strategy.
Yeah.
It's not just about the gold itself, but about how it works with other investments.
Right. It's all about creating a portfolio that can handle different economic situations.
Okay, that makes sense. Which brings us back to diversification.
Yes.
The article really emphasized spreading out your gold investments.
Mm.
So having physical gold ETFs, and shares in gold mining companies, why is that so important? Is it just like the classic, don't put all your eggs in one basket?
Well, it's kind of like building a house.
Okay.
You wouldn't want it to stand on just one pillar.
No.
You want multiple supports to keep it stable, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So each type of gold investment is like a different pillar supporting your portfolio.
Okay, so how do those different pillars work together?
So physical gold is that tangible connection, you know? It's something real. People have valued it for centuries.
Right.
It gives you a sense of security.
Okay.
Then you have gold ETFs, which offer a lot of flexibility.
Okay.
They're easy to buy and sell, so you can adjust quickly if the market changes.
So it's kind of like having cash, but it's tied to the value of gold.
Exactly. And then you have shares in gold mining companies.
Right.
This is where you can see some growth potential.
Okay.
As the demand for gold increases, those companies benefit.
So you're basically betting on the companies that produce the gold.
Right. But of course, that comes with higher risk because it's tied to the stock market.
Right. Okay. So let's say I'm ready to start allocating my gold IRA.
Okay.
Where do I even begin?
Well, the first step is finding a self-directed IRA that allows you to invest in precious metals.
Oh, okay.
Not all of them do, so you'll need to do some research.
Okay.
Find a provider that fits your needs.
So that's step one.
Right.
What's next?
Yeah.
Do I just pick my favorite type of gold investment
Yeah.
and go all in?
Well, no, not exactly.
Okay.
This is where all that research you did on the different types comes in.
Right.
You have to think about your risk tolerance,
Yeah.
your goals,
Okay.
and the current market conditions.
Okay, so no pressure or anything, but it sounds like a pretty important decision.
It is, but that's why their article stressed working with a gold IRA expert.
Oh, right, because they can kind of walk you through all of that?
Exactly. They can analyze market trends,
Okay.
assess your risk, and help you create a strategy that's tailored to you.
Wow, that sounds really helpful.
It is. It's like having a financial co-pilot.
Okay, I like that.
They can make sure you stay on course.
But wouldn't that make gold IRAs more expensive? I thought one of the benefits was that they were cost-effective.
That's a good point, and working with an expert does come with a cost.
Right.
But you have to weigh that against the potential benefits. They can help you avoid costly mistakes.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
They can maximize your returns, and they can make sure you stay compliant with all those IRS regulations.
It's true, because I wouldn't want to mess something up and get penalized.
Exactly. So it's an investment in your financial well-being.
Okay, that makes sense. Like paying for a good mechanic to keep your car running smoothly
Right.
might cost a little upfront, but could save you a lot of trouble later.
Exactly.
Well, speaking of potential trouble,
Yeah.
those IRS regulations seem pretty important. I wouldn't want to accidentally break any rules.
You're right. Compliance is crucial.
Okay, so where can I find reliable information on those regulations?
The IRS website is the best place to start. They always have the most up-to-date information.
Got it.
You can also find good resources from reputable gold IRA custodians and financial advisors.
Okay, so research.
Right.
Research.
Yes, it's not just about the investment itself. You got to understand the rules too.
Right, and it sounds like the custodians play a big role in keeping everything compliant.
Absolutely. They're the ones holding your assets,
Right.
managing transactions,
Mm-hmm.
reporting to the IRS.
So choosing a custodian who knows the rules inside and out is really important.
Yes, it's like finding a trustworthy captain for your ship.
I like that analogy.
They'll keep you on course and navigate any storms.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot in this part. Diversification, allocation, risk the custodian, the rules.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
It's a lot to take in.
It is.
But there's one more thing we need to talk about before we wrap up this part.
Okay, what's that?
Gold IRA fees
Oh,
and how they can affect your returns.
okay, yeah, we touched on that earlier.
Right, but it's really important.
Yeah.
So we talked about custodian fees, storage fees.
Right? Are there other fees I should know about?
There can be, yeah. Things like transaction fees, setup fees, even annual maintenance fees.
So it's not just the price of gold. There are all these other costs that can add up.
Exactly. And that's why transparency is so important.
Right.
You want a custodian who will tell you upfront exactly what you're paying.
No hidden fees, no surprises.
Exactly. And remember, compliance isn't a one-time thing.
Oh, right.
It's an ongoing process, so you need to stay informed about any changes to the IRS regulations.
So it's like a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
And having a good custodian and financial advisor can help you run that marathon.
Absolutely. They can make it much smoother.
Okay, so before we end this part, I want to leave you with a question to think about.
Okay.
We've talked about gold as a hedge against inflation,
Right.
but what does that actually mean? How does gold's performance during those times of high inflation actually benefit your retirement savings?
There's a great question, and it's one we'll explore more in part 3. Awesome. I can't wait to hear more. Okay, so welcome back to the deep dive for our final part.
Yeah, part 3.
Part 3.
Yeah?
I gotta say, that question you left us with in part 2 has really been on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does gold actually protect your retirement savings during inflation?
Right.
You know, it's one thing to say it's a hedge, but I want to really understand what that means in real life.
It's a good question, and I think it gets to the heart of why people are interested in gold IRAs.
Okay.
You know, we talked about inflation being like a thief,
Yeah, it sneaks up on you.
slowly stealing the value of your savings.
Yeah, that $100 turning into $95 worth of buying power later.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And imagine your retirement savings are all in assets that are losing value because of inflation.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, year after year, your nest egg is shrinking, even if the numbers look the same.
It's like a slow leak in a tire.
Exactly. And that's where gold comes in.
Okay.
Because historically, gold has tended to hold its value.
Right.
Or even go up in value when inflation is happening.
So it's like an umbrella,
Yeah, it's protection.
protecting you from the rain.
Exactly.
Okay, so some of my retirement savings in gold could keep my buying power from being totally washed away.
That's the idea. Of course, no investment is a sure thing.
Right.
And past performance doesn't guarantee future results.
Of course.
But that track record of gold as an inflation hedge is a big reason why investors like it.
Okay, so it's like adding some resilience to my portfolio.
Yeah.
A way to handle those economic ups and downs.
Exactly.
But it's not as simple as just like stuffing gold bars under my mattress, right?
Well, some people might like that idea,
Right.
but it's not really the most practical approach.
Okay.
Remember those gold IRA allocation strategies we talked about?
Right, finding the right mix of physical gold, gold ETFs, and gold mining stocks.
Exactly. It's about customizing your approach.
Yeah, based on your risk tolerance and goals.
Right, and it's not just about gold in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how it interacts with your other investments, especially during uncertain times.
Mm-hmm.
When traditional investments like stocks and bonds are struggling,
Yeah.
gold often does well.
Interesting.
It can offset those losses and stabilize your overall portfolio.
So it really is like that backup generator you mentioned.
Exactly. It kicks in when you need it most.
Okay, so we're thinking long-term here, not just chasing quick profits.
Right. It's about making sure your savings can support you throughout your retirement.
No matter what happens.
Exactly. And that's where gold IRAs, with their potential for stability and inflation protection, can be a great option.
Okay, now it's all starting to click for me.
Good.
They add something unique to a retirement plan
Yeah.
that you might not get from just stocks and bonds.
Right.
But there's one last thing we need to touch on before we wrap up our deep dive.
Okay. What's that?
Choosing a gold IRA provider.
Oh, right.
We talked about reputation, experience fees, all that.
Yeah. But it feels like there's more to it than just checking off boxes on a list.
There is. You're trusting this provider with a big part of your future financial well-being.
That's a big deal. So you need to find a provider you can really trust.
Okay, so how do I do that?
Well, think of it like finding a doctor or a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Someone you feel good about, someone who has your best interests in mind.
Yeah, I get that.
Start by doing your research, read reviews, check with organizations like the Better Business Bureau, and talk to different providers.
Okay, so like I'm interviewing them.
Exactly. And just like in a job interview, you want to ask good questions.
Right.
Don't just rely on their marketing materials. Dig deeper.
Okay, so what kinds of questions should I be asking?
Ask about their experience, their fees, how they handle storage, their compliance procedures, what their customer service is like.
Wow. Okay.
Really get a sense of their values.
Gotcha. And if something feels off, I should trust my gut, right?
Absolutely. Your intuition is important.
Okay.
This is a long-term relationship, so you want to choose someone you feel good about.
Someone you can work with.
Right.
Okay, well, this has been an amazing deep dive. We've covered so much. From like the basics of gold IRAs to the nitty-gritty of compliance and choosing a provider. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of retirement planning.
I'm glad to hear that. And it's been great exploring this topic with you.
Yeah, I feel much more prepared to make smart decisions about my future.
That's what it's all about.
Before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
This is just the beginning of your Gold IRA journey.
Mm-hmm.
There's always more to learn.
Always.
So stay curious, stay informed, and don't be afraid to ask for help from the experts.
Great advice. And remember, we're always here to help you navigate the financial world.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. Until next time, happy investing.